Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you the part 2 of Grotmas Day 8. We are actually talking about the assassins, not the custodians in this one. I already put them up. Probably, I think. Uh, the assassins have, well, I guess Imperial agents have a new detachment that is focused on the assassins. And if you're looking at this video, you probably already know that, well, one, it's on Warhammer Community's download page. So I still get a couple of people that are like, where do I go to see these things? So that's why I keep like doing this in the intro. If you're tired of me and you've been sticking around, that's why I do it. But two, everybody's kind of probably told you that Veil Blade Elimination Force is not good. Um, Arguably, even more than not good. And I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I'm just here to tell you the things you can do in it if you do really enjoy Imperial Agents and the Officio Assassinorum. Because with everything, there will be somebody that does like the niche thing. So I'm going to cover some funny hee hee ha ha's that I found. They're not too hee hee, and they're not too ha ha. But I just feel that we should at least look at the things that can be applied and then go a little bit more ham on it. Like it does need work. It does need quite a bit of work. But again, I think it's just very perplexing what the balance team looks like at GW. Cause how do you write this? How do you write Hexwarp Thrallband and write Warrior Bioform Onslaught? Like they I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it, but it's not for me to get right now. Right now we're locking in. We're talking about the extremist sanction, the detachment rule. When pursuing an extremist level target, the agents of the Officio Assassinorum are expected to push their altered minds and bodies beyond the limits of endurance. Additional equipment, augmentation, and ammunition may be provided to complete the task. The flavor of all this, I will say, top tier. Flavor, love it. Their execution is fucking hell. Officio Assassinorum units from your army can use the Overkill, Soulless Horror, and Shield Breaker abilities twice per battle instead of once per battle, but cannot use such an ability more than once in the same battle round. When mustering your army, each Officio Assassinorum unit from your army has the relevant extremist ability shown on the right, and you must increase the points cost of each of those units by the amount shown. If this causes your army to exceed the points limits for the battle you are playing, you cannot include the unit in your army. So, first off, I think we can all agree that these point costs are way too steep for what they do. Without even getting into it, you see 40, 40, 35, 45. Nothing in Imperial Agents deserves that for anything, honestly. It could say win the game, and you might be like, I'll take it for 5, maybe. Uh, it's interesting that they've done that. Second, that means that I think everybody's figured it out by now, but just to repeat it here, if you take a Calidus assassin, your cost in your army list is plus 40 points. You do not get to opt out. It is in that, which is another thing that I find weird. I think they could have just said you can choose to have it. You could just do the Death Leaper rule, I guess, where it's like, yeah, if you play in Vanguard Onslaught, he can be your warlord. I feel like you didn't have to make them tack on the 40 ish points, 35 to 45 points. That's a bit odd. Um, Also, they don't really survive long enough to justify the um detachment rule being you can use your once per game ability a second time, and even then they're not that game breaking, right? Like they are fun, but they're not that game breaking. So immediate thoughts, I'm probably going to do another video of how I would fix week two's Grot Miss Detachments. But early thoughts while we're right here, I would swap the extremist abilities into the detachment rule and the detachment rule into the enhancements. Right? I would just be like, hey, if you want, you can pay and another 40 points to use your shield breaker rounds another time in the game. And then you have the option of like, would I see myself needing that? Eh. I also wouldn't point it at 40, but there we go. But without further ado, let's get into the extremis abilities. Extremis. I guess technically it would be extremis, right? Decoy targets. Anyway, 40 points. Calidus Assassin model only, twice per battle in your movement phase. You can select one other friendly infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. The selected model is destroyed, ignoring any rules that are triggered when a model is destroyed, and this model is removed from the battlefield and set up again as close as possible to where that destroyed model was and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. This ability cannot be used more than once in the same battle round. This is like in between of Trajan and the Incarn. It is kind of odd. It's good for the Calidus. It is good for the Calidus. 40 points is way steep though. Like you do have to remember Calidus is a lone up that gives out a Lord of Deceit aura. So this means that you can reposition that aura and possibly not have your opponent not be ready to deal with one that aura and two your Calidus assassin. So it is good. 40 points good. I don't know. I think this could easily be half, and I would not be upset because my opponent is playing Imperial agents. Then we have Esoteric Explosives, 40 points. Collects assassin models only. Each time this model is targeted with the grenade stratagem, one mortal wound is inflicted for each d6 roll of d3 up instead of each 4 up. Weird way they wrote that. 40 points. You're not bringing Caluxus anyway, if we're being honest. Um, 40 points is way too much to have grenades trigger on threes instead of fours. You could have easily done this on twos. And then I'd go, okay, it is odd because you still have to target with the grenade strat. So don't don't know why they did that. Really don't. But also the other note is like, hey, just don't bring all the assassins. Bring the ones that are possibly good, and then we'll talk about the rest of the list in a second. Intraneural Biotech, 35 points. Eversor Assassin. Once per battle round, you can target this model with the Heroic Intervention or Counter Offensive Stratagem for 0 CP, and can do so even if you have used that stratagem on a different unit this phase. This is good. 35 points good. I don't know, maybe 25. Um, this is good on the Eversor. So far, I know nobody else is justifying this, and I'm not even going to try to justify it per se. But if you take away the points cost, right? I know that's the big one. If you take away the points cost and go, damn, I'm really playing Imperial Agents, I go, you know what? That's a great ability for the Calidus, and that's a great ability for the Eversor. And that really does do what I want out of Veil Blade Elimination Force. Why didn't they just call it like Officio Sessa Norum Force or something? I don't know. Anyway, but that's that. And then we go to another one that you probably wouldn't take. Um, the Vindicare Assassin. 45 points, you get Micro Melta rounds. This model's Exodus rifle has the anti-monster 4-up and anti-vehicle 4-up abilities. Again, the Vindicare isn't that good. And this ability isn't 45 points good. So, if you just go into the list build with I take a Calidus and an Eversor in mind, that is an additional 75 points. But what they do is very nice, especially if they live, because they are lone ups and they will fuck some shit up. Um, it will depend on what you're going against that day, right? But if you just resolve yourself to say, hey, I am only ever going to use these two, the best two. I have a great Calidus. 40 points, great. I don't know. Um, and a great Eversor. 35 points, great. I don't know. But you go into that, and then you build the rest of the list with the things that the stratagems can apply to. You have more fun. I'm not going to say it's viable, but you have more fun. Let's go over to the strats. Sorry, I got it on the geriatric. I don't know. My eyes were had a long day of dealing with work, so my eyes were clocking out on that one. So I put it on the big screen. Prime target: your shooting phase or the fight phase. One agents of the Imperium unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase. When your unit makes an attack that targets a character unit, reroll a wound roll of 1. If that attack is made by an Officio Assassinora model and it targets the enemy warlord, you can reroll the wound roll instead. First off, this is a lot of circle jerking for fucking nada, if I'm being honest. Like, I really don't give a shit about the enemy warlord with my Officio Assassinora model. I really don't. But that aside, there are quite a bit of character units that it's not terribly inapplicable. It does just also have the why did you do that though? Like I feel like if you just made it reroll wound rolls of 1 like you have for a lot of the Grotmish detachments, it wouldn't be as egregious. Egregious? Um into which what's going on here. Is the shooting phase or the fight phase? There are a few things that have things like death wounds, but again, you have to target a character unit, and I get it, they're assassins. You assassinate a person. But I feel like they also aren't assassins because you make them in the lore kill everything and not just one target. They kind of are known for fucking up the entire room too. So like I feel you could have just gave them the bone. Orbital Oversight. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. One agents of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that was selected as the targets. Lone up 18. If it already has lone up, goes down to 6. You get Draxus for a second unit per turn. Um, this is one of the things that I think has potential, but you all know that I am a fan of range combat in which one party gets to shoot and the other doesn't. So that's my bias as to why I think orbital oversight might be an oversight on our part. 18 inches out, there's some play here. Not great play, not great play, but there's some play here. Hyper stems, and it also makes your assassins, which you're making more lone ups than other armies have, go down to 6. If you really do love your Vindicare that much, something like that could be cool. Hyper stems, 2 CP. Weird they consider to give anything an Imperial Agents Codex a 2 CP, but here we are. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 agents of the Imperium character unit from your army that was selected as the target of the attacks. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the toughness characteristic of models in your unit. In addition, if it is an Eversor assassin, until the end of the phase, it has the Feel No Pain for Up ability. Kind of weird that they didn't just make this transhuman backslash Terminator rules that they have for everybody else so far. Okay, not everybody, but like the vast majority of people. Also weird that they went to make it 2 CP. It is highly restrictive. Plus 1 toughness helps sometimes, but not nearly as often as just minus 1 to wound, right? So, weird they did that. Very weird they did that. Blind grenade. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. When agents of the Imperium grenades or Vindicare assassin unit from your army that was selected as one of the targets of that charge and is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units until the end of the phase. Subtract 1 from the charge rolls made for that enemy unit, or if your unit is a Vindicare assassin, subtract 2 instead. This is good. Um, Great, no. For what it does, though, it's good. I didn't realize how many things have grenades in this fucking army. So, just making it that the charges are a bit harder for 1 CP, interesting. I would have liked if it was 2 and 3. If because you have grenades and spend 1 CP, your opponent into Imperial agents, it is harder by 2 to make the charge. Now, let's talk for a second about the direction of what this detachment obviously wants you to do. It doesn't want you to get hit. You're sneaky, you're an assassin, ooh, sneaky, spookity. You aren't supposed to get hit. So, lone ops, not letting people get the charges, plus 1 to the toughness, possibly a 4 up feel, no pain, because I think you are bringing the Eversor. For 2 CP though, that's I don't think you bring this Eversor that tough, right? But you know, clearly it is. We're going to hit you and not get hit either by shooting or by melee. So I feel that some people might be able to pull off a list that is focusing on that, given that they are just a better player than me, better player than most. It's not that hard to be a better player than like me, but not to say like oh I'm just so sick nasty with it, but I'm just saying I don't have the will to try to make this the go-to thing. Do I? I did like Vanguard Onslaught for quite some time. I don't think I do, but to that point, you have so far 1 unit take Kyria Draxus, lone op 18. Another unit gets targeted, lone op 18. Probably only expose 2 or 3 units at a time, and then you can't get shot. And then when they try to charge you, blind grenades, right? Like that's the spiel here. Will sapping salvo. Oh man. Your shooting phase. Agents of the Imperium infantry that has not shot, you get sustained hit 1 for ranged weapons. In addition, if it's the Caluxus assassin, until the end of the phase, change the damage characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit to 3. This could have been add 3, and then we're talking for 1 CP on the Caluxus assassin. But outside of that, sustained hit 1, shooting phase, and again, this is what's going to happen. On your opponent's turn, they try to shoot you, 1 CP. They try to charge you, 1 CP. On your turn, you shoot them back, sustained hit 1. On your turn, possibly reroll wound rolls of 1. Never on this one. But that's what the flow of this is supposed to be. And again, it's not a great detachment. I'm not here to convince you of that. I'm not. But I think this has enough play to catch people off guard. Instead of going 0 and 5, I could see this doing 2 and 3, hell, maybe 3 and 2. And with the right person, anything could figure out a way to go 5 and 0. Right? Right. So it would be interesting to see this develop more, especially given something like a Calidus jumping around the field twice per battle. Sorry. Uh, Putting that aura in places that people aren't ready for. An Eversor assassin beating the brakes off of people that people aren't ready for. Heroic intervening and correct counter offensiving interrupting for free. Meanwhile, they can't shoot you, they can't charge you, and you are sustained hitting them on the flip side. So to that is like I I understand what they went for points wise here, but it just really didn't need to happen. It just didn't need to happen. Like you do make good loan ups, but not enough of this list will be breakable that you are needing that points cost. And then finally, ensnaring trap, end of your opponent's charge phase. One agent of the Imperial infantry unit that is within 6 inches of one or more enemy units and it would be eligible to declare charge against one or more of those enemy units. You can declare a charge. When doing so, you must select one of the enemy units as the targets. If your unit and if you do, your unit does not receive a charge bonus this turn. In addition, if it is a Calidus assassin unit and makes a charge move as a result of this stratagem until the end of the turn, each time a model in your unit makes a melee attack, +1 to the wound roll. So, uh, this is good after you have probably heroic intervened your Eversor into somebody, then you ensnaring trap somebody else, and you do the damn thing. That's the play there, and you just go with it. How effective this will be, can't say that I am worried about this. At current, can't say that I am. I also play different types of lists than some Tyranid players. Like, for example, you'd be hard pressed to find me run a bunch of Gaunts. So if that's one of my lists where I'm going through that, maybe this becomes a thing that I really need to concern myself with. Um, because that means that my exocrine has to get further to something to do some damage. That could be a thing. This could be a very interesting addition for a team's list. This could be. I don't think anybody would actually take the gamble on it like that. But if they did, this could be interesting. Is this a counter for something like GSC who has a lot of characters? Maybe. Not really, but maybe. Maybe post balance data slate, we'll see. Oh no, I think that it's niche. It's so niche that it might end up helping a team's format so much because people have no clue what the fuck is happening to them. And I think that has its own merit. So let's go into them. Calidus Assassin, Deep Strike fights first, infiltrating, lone up. T4, 4 up in bone, 4 up or die, 4 wounds. Neural Shredder, Anti Infantry 2 up, Precision, Torrent. D6, Strength 5, AP2, Damage 1. Melee weapons, lethal hits precision on the phase sword and poison blades, 5 attacks hidden on 2s, strength 5, AP4, damage 2. Lord of Deceit aura, when you use a stratagem within 12 inches of her, it goes up by 1 CP, 100 points for the model, 140 for her and Veiled Blade Elimination Force. 140 points for this. At the end of the fight phase, if this model is within engagement range of one or more, it can make one or more enemy units. It can make a fallback move of up to D6. In addition, at the end of your opponent's turn, if this model is not within 3 inches of more, you can remove it from the battlefield. If it is in the reinforcements step of your next movement phase, set up anywhere in the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away horizontally from all enemy units. If the battle ends and this model is not on the battlefield, it is destroyed. So, Gallus already hard to pin down. The decoy targets makes her even harder. and puts her into more interesting positions instead of you just needing to go straight off the board. Because you can remove from the battlefield, you don't have to. So, Callus, I think you're just auto slamming if you were to play this detachment. Calyxus Assassin. Here we go, where we have another same just outlook on the 444. It was 444, right? Yep. 444. Deep Strike, Lone Op, Stealth on this one. When this model is set up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, it can perform an Etheric Emergence. If it does, this model can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches horizontally from all enemy units, but until the end of the turn, it is not eligible to declare a charge. This model has the 5 up, 4 a Feel No Pain 2 up against psychic attacks, excuse me, and Soulless Horror. Once per battle, at the start of any command phase, this model can use this ability. If it does, each enemy unit within 9 inches of this model must take a Battle Shock test, subtracting 1 from that test, 2 if it's a Psyker. Straight up, not going to go pretty much any further because I highly doubt that this is something that you include into the list here. For 100 points, yeah, you can use Soulless Horror twice over. Is it needed? Eh, I don't, I don't, I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, yeah, there's the whole Pokeball situation with this, but it's just so incredibly niche. I can't see this being your choice in there. Eversor 444, Executioner Pistol, Anti Infantry 3 up, Pistol Precision Sustained, hits 3. 12 inches on that range, 4 attacks in on 2, Strength 4, AP 0, Damage 1. Melee weapons, Power Sword and Neural Gauntlet, Anti Infantry 3 up, Precision Sustained, hits 3. 6 attacks, hitting on 2, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 2. This model is eligible to shoot in a turn in which shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. It has Lone Up and Scouts 9 inches, Deadly Demise 3d3. Once per battle in your movement phase, this model can use this ability before it makes a normal move. If it does, until the end of the turn, add 6 inches to the model's move characteristic and add 3 to the attack characteristic of this model's melee weapons. So, in this detachment, 2 turns, you can have an additional 6 inches to the move and an additional 3 to the attacks of the Power Sword and Neural Gauntlet. So you have 9 attacks, hitting on 2, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 2, Anti Infantry 3, Precision, Sustains 3. Now, that is nice. And then you also have the Heroic Intervention, backslash counter, offensive to get into the mix. This can be cool. The anti-infantry 3 without it being dev wounds is both nice and not nice because you will be getting the target that you're going for here, especially with precision if you really need to do that. 110 points plus another 100 and sorry, plus another 35. So it's a tax. It's a tax. Then we go to the Vindicare Assassin 444. Not going over the rifles and things like that because they are what they are. Deadshot. You can hit things that have Lone Op, Shield Breaker once per battle. When selecting targets for this model's Exodus rifle, it can fire a Shield Breaker round. If it does, until the end of the phase, each time this model makes an attack with that weapon, add 1 to the wound roll, and any successful wound roll rolls a critical wound. Um, you are critting and then doing dev wounds because it's a critical wound with the Exodus rifle. So it's a bit odd the way that they've done all of this. It has Infiltrator and Stealth. Vindicare is hard to justify here. Now, on to the funny, now that we've covered the Officio Assassinorum. Grey Knight's Terminator Squad. Each time this model in this unit makes a charge move until the end of the turn, melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Lethal Hits ability. Complete a charge in your enemy's turn on top of that after deep striking, maybe a rapid ingress, rapid ingress 9. Now, you wouldn't be in range from that one because you have to rapid ingress 9. Um, but it does prime out a lot of things, right? Now, actually, no, I was going to say maybe if you deep strike and they move something, but you have to do your deep strike for the rapid ingress last. So, never mind on that front or that possible pivot idea. But more than anything, you have the Nemesis Force weapon, Psychic, Melee, 4 attacks hitting on 3, Strength 6, AP 2, Damage 2 that can go into your opponent. They also have the grenades keyword. So, not only can you do the whole little shebang here of end of your opponent's charge phase, you charge into them, you also have the option of making it so that it is -1 to the charge into them. So that's cool as well. Especially if they deep strike 9 and somebody's just like, well, then I guess I'll just target you as the leapfrog. You make that a 10. So good luck. Not the backbreaker, but it is interesting. And you also can give some version of Terminator's loan up, thanks to orbital oversight. Moving on to the Sisters of Battle Squad. This is more so just a. They also have grenades, and they have a fuck ton of possibilities on the ranged weapons front with 10 models. So maybe you do go into giving them sustained hits 1 just to make even better use of a lot of this shit. Now, there are quite a bit of flamers in there, so they won't get that, but that's step number 1. Step number 2, also Voyage Man at Arms. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible target, that attack has the lethal hits ability. Now we're talking about 6 models, 50 points, getting lethals and sustains and grenades. Now, this is cheap as hell for something that will do unexpected damage. It won't do a lot of damage, it will just do unexpected damage. And that's what all of the Imperial Agents Codex kind of really is. So don't weigh too heavily on, I don't have that voice man at arms group that Mr. Monster told me to bring. It's just don't feel bad putting 50 points in there. Inquisitorial agents. While an Inquisitor model is leading this unit, each time an attack is made against this unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. An Inquisitor model can be Draxus. You can put Inquisitorial agents with Draxus, do the loan up 18. They finally get the charge off, even though you -1 to 1 that bad boy, and they are still -1 to wound versus you. Can just be pretty fucking frustrating. Tome Skull, once per battle. For each Tome Skull this unit is equipped with, at the start of any phase, you can select either one friendly agent of the Imperial unit that is battle shocked and within 6 inches of this unit, or one enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit. If you select a friendly, no longer battle shocked. If you select an enemy unit, it must take a battle shock test. 50 points plus to 12. Um, it is an option, right? We're looking at more things that you could possibly give sustained hits to. I already talked about the loan op and the -1 to wound and the -1 to charge. Inquisitorial agents, we're looking at a list that is pretty cheap compared to all the things that we were talking about earlier. That's where I think that they wanted the cost to be upset. Whereas, like, well, shit, if I have 36 models and it costs me 300 points and they are hard as fuck to actually get rid of off the board, maybe. Not to say that you'll do damage back, but I think this could be the skew that they started to look for. Inquisitor Draxus. While this model is leading the unit, it can embark within any transport that its bodyguard unit can embark with. While this model is leading the unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit that does not have the Imperium or Chaos keywords, add 1 to the hit roll. In your command phase, this Psyker can use this ability. If it does, roll 1d6. On a 1, this Psyker's unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 2 up, until the start of your next command phase, this Psyker's unit can only be selected as the attack target as the target of a ranged attack if that attacking model is within 18 inches. Alright, 75 points. Slap her on where we said before. Then you are, I don't want to say golden, but you're doing better. Especially when you can include the sustained hits once more, plus one hit versus certain targets, while the Dirt Singer alone is anti infantry, 4 up, assault, devastating wounds, and Psychic Tempest is already sustained, so don't worry about that one. But that's a way you can rock the boat. Watch Captain Artemis, Feel No Pain, 6 up, leader. While this model is leading a unit, weapons equipped by models in that unit have the lethal hits. You already know where I'm going with that on the sustained lethal hits. The first time this model is destroyed, roll 1d6 at the end of the phase on a 2 up, set it back up as close as possible to where it is destroyed and not within range of any enemy units with 1 wound remaining. Hellfire Extremist, Anti Infantry 4 up, Dev Wounds, Ignores, Cover, Torrent, d6 411. Mastercraft Power Weapon, 6 attacks hitting on 2, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 2. This can go onto a Death Watch kill team. 65 points. Everything in here is kind of dirt cheap. Sustained lethal hits does start to feel like, huh, a lot of things are having this option to do sustained lethal hits. Because it just has to be Agents of the Imperial Infantry unit. It is starting to feel like that's a combo that you can just keep shitting out for 1 CP a turn. Fair enough. And if it gets real dire, reroll some wound rolls. Then we go over to the Deathwatch kill team itself. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the target of that attack does not have the Imperium or Chaos keyword, you can reroll the hit roll instead. Astartes Shield, the bearer has a 4 up invulnerable save. TODR, you are already getting rerolls of reroll hit rolls of 1. Now you are taking Watch Captain Artemis for lethal hits, and you are spending a CP for sustained hits. It is damage potential, not a damage promise. Okay? Um, I think it's worth exploring slightly the more that I think about it. Sustained lethals, reroll ones. You will start to lift whatever, and you do have things like the Death Watch Thunderhammer giving you 3 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 10, AP 2, damage 3, death wounds. Or the Xenophage Blade also having death wounds, 4 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 5, AP 2, damage 1. I think this will do damage that people aren't expecting, while an Eversor and a Calidus causes confusion. I know everybody's happy that Deathwatch just came back, but maybe remember they were just in this young book. I think they're still going to be in the book, right? Unless I'm missing something, but I'm pretty sure they're still going to be in the book. The Watchmaster can also lead Deathwatch kill team. While this model is leading a unit that is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn at which it advanced or fell back. Once per battle round, you can use a stratagem for 1 less CP. It's just nice to have the Watchmaster in case you are just like, I only have 1 Artemis, so throw on Watchmasters on the other 2 Deathwatch kill teams that you might bring in this. Inquisitors, because Inquisitors. While this model is leading a unit, it can embark on any transport that its bodyguard unit can, and stratagem, roll 1d6 on a 3 up, you gain 1 CP each time you target this model's unit. Why would I tell you to bring an Inquisitor? Just to make some of these things character units, so you can have access to things like hyper stems. Hooray! Yeah, just so you can have access to shit like hyper stems. Um, as you can see, it's not the biggest necessity, but if we're using CP, might as well tack it on for additional 55 and possibly gain 1 CP, right? And we're going to close it out with the Sisters of Battle Emulator. Why am I talking about an emulator? Because, one, you can bring emulators, and that just makes your army better than it was already. Each time this model has shot, select one enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, that enemy unit cannot have the benefit of cover. Strip the cover, sustain lethals on a bunch of attacks that didn't have pretty much any AP to start with, and you can do that. Also, Hunter Killer Missile, 1 shot, uh, hits on 2s. The wounding part is usually where things get funky. If it's a character, You can reroll the wound roll of 1. Now, that's just me talking. If you try to fire a hunter killer missile out like a Catan, that is a character, right? Or shit, probably the Silent King nowadays. Uh, or any of the walkers that became characters thanks to Solar Spearhead. But beyond that, I just want to say you can reroll wound rolls of 1 into character units, so that extends to something like the Flamer from Immolation Flamers because it is a Agents of the Imperium unit. So if there is a character unit that you just need to lift and you have your Sisters of Battle Immolator in the list, you can do that just pretty much with anything. I know there's already the you can have the Flamers become the Twin Heavy Bolter or the Twin Multi Melta. If you just keep the Flamer, you don't have to necessarily worry about the Twin Link too damn hard. Like you could just do this. But yeah, that's uh that's the detachment. It's not it is lacking. It is lacking. It is lacking. I'm not going to say it's not bad because it is it's just so jarring. I think the thing is that it's so jarring more so how bad it is. Um but I think that's just Imperial Agents as a codex overall that you will find people that are really into it and they'll make it work and then you'll be like, damn, did I really just lose to Imperial Agents Veiled Blade Elimination Force? Fuck. And then we'll see if that happens more often than not once people figure out a solid list. But there's a lot of sustained hits, lethal potential, there's reroll wounds, there's a lot of options for you to not take damage at range and to make it harder to be charged. And then you can also take things like your Terminators, Grey Knight Terminator Squad, and your Eversor Assassin, or your Calidus, and charge into the enemy on their turn and just cause a bunch of fucking confusion. So that's the takeaway from this. I'm interested to see somebody that has other models try to run this and then see what happens. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.